Our next speaker is Isaac McHale. Isaac, to me, represents, I think, the range, the limitless, perhaps, range of opportunities open to a chef who is willing to reimagine what a restaurant can be. And I'll just give you an example. In the last 3 years, each of the last 3 years, I've been lucky enough to go to a dinner that Isaac had hosted. Each year in London during the World's 50 Best Awards. And the first time, each time it's been an utterly distinct experience. The first time was a dinner, a one-off dinner, a pop-up dinner that he and his colleagues, they call themselves the Young Turks, cooked in, I think it was a bakery way out in somewhere in East London. The second time was a dinner at 10 Bells Pub where the Young Turks had been in residency for the previous 6 months. And then this year, the third time, was at the Clove Club, which was just, I think, we could call it a real restaurant in the conventional sense of the word. But that he and his co-owners, Johnny Smith and Daniel Willis, had actually crowdfunded to get started. And in each case, the food was incredibly, it's seemingly simple but packed with flavor, the kind of food that, in my experience, chefs love to eat. And one of those dishes at that last dinner was the buttermilk fried chicken that I think Isaac is going to demo for us now. Okay, please join me in welcoming Isaac McHale.
Hello, everyone. I've got a few things to do today. I'm going to start with a quick demo. Then I'm going to show some slides, talk about my creative process and where I've come from, and then I've got a little video about the restaurant. I tried really, really hard to bring some grouse from Scotland over here. For the past 3 months, there have been millions of emails coming over, trying to get them imported into the US, and was it possible? And in the end, I just gave up and did something that's kind of like a dish I always do, but everyone loves it. I wanted to bring grouse, but I love the idea of doing Scottish buttermilk fried chicken for America. So this dish, it's the first time I ever cooked my own food. Was one of the other presenters here, Nuno Mendes, did a project in London where he gave over a space he had for guest chefs to do dinners. And I was working at the Ledbury, a restaurant in London. I was just looking at finishing and setting up my own place. And he gave us the opportunity to start out on that journey. And talking about where creativity comes from, this dish came about because I went to a Japanese knife shop in New York and bought a little wooden skewer called matsubagushi, which translated was pine needle skewers. And so I started thinking about what I could put with this. I bought these cool skewers. I wanted to do something with it. And I liked fried chicken. I loved Japanese fried chicken, so I thought it made sense. And I thought that, seeing as they were pine skewers, a pine needle salt would work with it. Stupidly, I hadn't tested it until the first guests arrived, but luckily, it worked, and it's changed slightly. We moved from doing a Japanese-style frying to doing a kind of hybrid American sort of thing. But yeah, I'm going to explain right now. So we start with a chicken here. We only use chicken leg, or the thigh, boneless. So kind of different to what you'd think of as Southern American, like fried chicken, buttermilk fried chicken. What we do is cut the chicken down into small pieces off the bone. We marinate it in buttermilk with a little bit of salt, 1.5% salt, for 24 hours. And that starts to tenderize it. There's a little bit of acidity there. And then it gets dredged in a mixture of instant polenta and some tapioca starch So it's kind of, there's a bit of an Asian thing there in terms of the best flour to fry with. We couldn't get instant polenta here. It doesn't exist in America, apparently. So we've got normal polenta, which we've ground up to make a finer powder. Those two get combined just in ratios two polenta to 1 tapioca. And then brought all small bowls. So really simple crumb. Then we marinate the chicken leg. I'm going to do that in a second. Marinate the chicken leg, and it comes straight out of here, gets dredged in the flour, fried, and then served in the restaurant in a basket, which I brought all the way from London and then left in the hotel this morning. So in some sort of glass container full of pine. So it's a really fun presentation. It's kind of always catches people's eye, and it's seasoned with a pine salt, which is simply the pine needles ground up with a little bit of salt, and then, I don't know if you'd say it tastes good, but it smells great. It's kind of fibrous, so you don't want to eat a lot of it, but it smells really citrusy and fragrant. When we grind up the fresh pine with some salt, when the hot chicken gets seasoned with it, the heat brings out the oils, and you really smell that citrusy, piney aroma, and then served in the pine. It's great. So I'm going to start off with, I'm going to check this is set right. So I've got that guy. This is local pine. We get our pine from parks around the restaurant. It grows all over, I guess. I've talked to a few people today about pine in Singapore, pine in Australia, and around the back of the CIA, they've got like a couple of different types we managed to find. This is Douglas fir. Sometimes we use larger pine. This one's a kind of slightly different citrusy flavors, but you can use either. So. I don't know if it's really boring me taking the leg off a chicken on stage, or if I should just start talking about the other stuff. I probably should.
We like to see you in action. Come on.
Sorry?
We like to see you in action.
Okay.
Don't undersell yourself.
So, that's not needed. So we've got the thigh. We take, I'm not sure the name, but it's a heritage breed from a local farm, which they're lucky enough to get for me. And we take out the bone. Oh yeah, I was going to do this to kind of, okay. Whole reason I'm doing this, taking a chicken leg off the bone on stage, which isn't the most interesting thing for you to see, is to explain that, it's gone, that's quick. We want to take off a little bit of this fat on the side, but not all of it. Then these guys here can go. And then the important part is there's a couple of different muscles here, and you want to end up with cutting, not separating the muscles, then you'll just have one dense muscle which won't be as tender as if you cut across the thigh. So you've got 3 different muscles there that when it fries, when you chew through it, there's going to be different muscles that slide. It's going to feel more tender than if you separate individual muscles and had one firm piece. It's all the little things that make dishes work. So the chicken, Chicken gets marinated in buttermilk. Now, I don't know, it seems like in this country the buttermilk's much thinner than in the UK, so I've added a little bit of yogurt to thicken it. This is, buttermilk's kind of like almost pretty thin liquid, like thick milk, but you want something that's kind of like pouring cream, I guess, in consistency. So, I take the chicken, weigh it, add half of its weight in buttermilk. So that was, sorry, let's go back there. Oh, here we go. We've got 130 grams of chicken, 134. So I need 68 grams of buttermilk. Okay.
How did you arrive at that formula?
How did I arrive at that number? I just made
no,
it. I just made it up and it worked.
Good. It sounded so impressive. Years of research and investigation.
Well, you know, we tried more, we tried less, so that worked. We need salt to be 1.5%, so that's like 2 grams just. Oh, wrong scales. And then the chicken goes in and gets left for 24 hours, tenderizes slightly. And then it gets dredged and fried. Now, when I fry it, it has to be at room temperature. So you have to bring out what you need for a day, for a service. And I'm just going to get rid of this. So here's the crumb, mixed ground polenta and tapioca. And we just lift the pieces of chicken out, dredge them in the flour, and dust them off and fry. I did this in the World Marketplace, so maybe some of you guys got to try it then. I know that Tim Ryan didn't get to try it, and I said I'd give him this stuff from on stage so he could try it after missing out on the Thursday night. So that's us, and we need a 2-minute timer. Which doesn't work if there's no battery in this little guy.
I can count for you.
Oh, power on, okay. Here we go. Start. I'm going to do 1 more minute and then a few more seconds after that. Oh, that took a long time. Have I really got 3 minutes left?
I know, you have to hurry up, man.
All right, I'm not even going to get to show any pictures or...
Maybe a few
I've got a video. When this finishes frying, maybe I'll just play the video. Oh, I had stories about the French Laundry Cookbook and its influences on me. And working with Stephen Durfee today, who's been really, or the past few days, has been really helpful. All these little bits, I'm missing out on them. Okay. So, could you get a little metal bowl?
But they're playing your video now. What's that?
Okay, it's starting. Okay. So here's the video, here's our restaurant.
Ritual unions got me in trouble again. I was wondering of a white dress and the mistress and the spirit holding my hand. Love's sinking in the sand, petals
you. Got three months of worrying about this presentation and all the impossible topic, and 3 pages of can't believe I'm missing out on it, getting to do it. So this is the chicken that I did because I couldn't do the grouse. So we sprinkle over pine salt. It's only got 8% salt to pine ratio, so you can really heavily season it without heavily salting it. And then gets shaken and covered in this pine, and the smell starts to come out. And there's my little dish.
So, Isaac, the powers that be have kindly granted you
2 more
a few
minutes.
more minutes.
Okay.
Give us the highlights
All right.
of those 3 months of work.
So, I guess I wanted to talk about the influences on my creative process. That's the questions I've been asked. Our restaurant's been open for 7 months now, and thinking about the question, has made me realise that as a chef, when you open your own restaurant, before that you're working for other people, you're learning from them. You start out influenced by everything that's gone before. You have to be, and especially influenced by those people you've worked for, your upbringing, and foods you've experienced in your childhood and your travels and so on. And you move to being an influencer. Down the line, all going well and your restaurant's doing well, you'll influence other people. So the case of Thomas Keller, your restaurant, I guess from reading your book when it first came out, you were influenced by your travels in France and like an American sense of humor. And from there, you've gone to influencing countless chefs around America and then around the world, and me. I guess my influences are growing up in Glasgow, in Scotland, in the 1980s. There wasn't really Scottish food in Glasgow. There was a little bit further out in the Highlands and the more harder to reach places. But in Glasgow, there was frozen meals. There was a lot of Pakistani and Indian food, which I loved. That's the reason I started cooking. And that had a little influence on me. I still use Indian spices nowadays. Not in everything, but here and there. I think it makes more sense for me to use a little bit of Indian spices than try and do some romanticized version of Scottish food that didn't exist in my upbringing. Is less real to me. I remember being influenced by the French Laundry Cookbook when it came out. I said that. Working in restaurants in Australia, working for Tom Aikens in London, and then a long time, 6 years at a restaurant, the Ledbury. And I got a chance at the Ledbury Brett allowed me to try things out. You had to be set for service, you had to have everything done, but then I had my mind going brrr with loads of little ideas and got to try things out. And he gave me that freedom to believe in myself and my own ideas and try things out and see that they had value and they could be in a Michelin star restaurant. From there, I started doing pop-up restaurants, lucky enough to cook for Lisa for a couple of years in little events we've done. And I guess the whole crux of my talk, so I'm going to finish it real quick, is that when I set out from the Ledbury, I remember a lesson from the French Laundry cookbook, like one of the pages, refining and refining, and making the smoothest puree and passing something, and refining was a key lesson. And I took that on board, and I learned how to make the best mashed potato and the smoothest puree and so on, but I wanted to take a different route, and I wanted to show that just grating a carrot on a box grater and warming it up with a little bit of butter could have as much gastronomic value as making a puree, or doing a crushed carrot instead of a carrot puree, doing something slightly more primitive, I guess, slightly less transformation. And that was just, that was taking on everything I'd learned and trying to look at things slightly differently. All right, okay. I'm going to finish it up right now. Thanks very much for having me. It's been a great honor to be on stage after Thomas Keller, Enrico Vera, and thanks for having me in California.